You're watching Rock Shop Live, brought to you by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones. Now for Music Gear Network, here's your host, guitarist Eric Broadbent.
Hey everyone, happy Thursday evening to you. Welcome to Rock Shop Live. I guess we could call this probably day 2 of Bass Week. It's been a lot of bass players lately, and it's certainly a fun discussion to talk about. We had Derek Smalls on the show yesterday. Tonight we have author and legendary bassist and animal rights activist Rudy Sarzo making his second appearance here to the program. Rudy, how are you? It's been great to have you back on the program.
Yeah, great to be back. This time I'm coming as mandolinist.
Oh, that's great. Let me see what you got. I'm going to go to the big screen. Show nice.
It's a ball back Washburn from 1890. And so I'm not really playing bass anymore.
There you go.
This is it for me.
That's it.
I'm going mandolin. That's it.
I love that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I haven't had a mandolin in a lot of years. I had a bass player in my band years ago that ran a pawn shop, and it was it was great. And he would give me like the price that he paid for the stuff. And I'm not sure I'm sure you've dealt with pawn shops over the years, picking up instruments and stuff like that. But they only
used to, but not anymore because of eBay. eBay was the first one, and now Reverb and all of that. I mean, it's impossible to walk into a pawn shop and get a deal on anything.
Because they know, right? Now they got the internet, they know what it's worth.
Yeah, well, not only, I haven't found anything that I really want. It's usually like the really, crappy stuff.
Like
nothing, no pro quality instrument, basically.
True.
Yeah.
Well, in my small town of Ontario, Canada, where we live in Ontario, Canada, there were a few things that would come through, the odd gem. I picked up a PV Wolfgang USA for $80.
Oh, wow.
I could turn around and sell it like $1,600 with no questions right now. I mean, no questions. So it actually worked out well, but I had a mandolin from him, which I really enjoyed. But that's cool to see you playing that.
Yeah, I love it.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to jump over to the chat here for a quick sec, say hi to a bunch of people, and then we're going to hop right into our questions as well, too. And I had to apologize yesterday. Yesterday's show was so fast, we didn't get a chance to say hi to people. So we've got Joe Hervey here. Gary Tholender is here. Umo is here. Soda's jumping in. The Dogpaw, Alex Radford, Lars Guitars, Edwin Crane. Quentin James is here. Alex Radford, I'm not sure if I mentioned you. Probably did. Say it twice. Sounds nice. Krellbar is here. Zach Thong is here. Stafford's Music Studio is here as well, too. Edwin Kane, Butterfly and Ladybug Show, that's my better half. She'll be sharing your links to all of your entities throughout the evening, including the Amazon link for a book purchase, which we'll talk about later as well, too. Stephen S. is here. Half Ace is here. Waleed is here. Six String Brian is here. Thomas Maynard, Thomas Farrell, Ricky Mees, Bearded Blues Dude. Man, we got a full house. So I want to talk about, before we jump into like all the fun stuff here tonight, since the last time you were on, and I think it's been about a year and a half, a lot of things have changed on my end, and a lot of things have changed for you too. I was so happy when I started to see little tweets about podcasting and then eventually a radio show as well too. Can you tell us about, making that little kind of different turn in your career path going into podcasting and the radio show and what it's all about?
Yeah, what happened was I recently, it seemed like a few, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we had like a number of musicians passing. We had Lemmy passed, Ronnie James Dio passed, Jimmy Baines, and I was attending services, and people would get up and say all these beautiful things about, those who were not with us anymore. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if the people were actually present to hear all the nice things everybody was saying? So basically, I came up with my podcast called The Dash, which is, like on a tombstone.
Okay.
Headstone. You have the birth date and the death date. Then you have a dash in between. Now, that dash is life. So, and not a whole lot of attention is paid to the dash. It's usually about, well, he was born on a certain day and died on a certain day. So what about the life? Let's celebrate the life of the person. So my podcast started, I called it The Dash, that dash on the headstone, And so basically I started doing a podcast, And just, my friends, my initial podcasts were actually my neighbors.
Oh, wow.
Because in my neighborhood, I have like, people from like the world of film. Like one of them is the prop master for the whole Marvel universe, and he creates all the props. So we were talking on that podcast about props. I mean, if you're a musician, you're gonna be into sci-fi and fantasy
All
and all
that
that
stuff.
stuff.
All
So
that.
yeah, of course, that's we grew up with all of that. And another neighbor of mine, Blasco, the bassist for Ozzy, and he also manages Zach Wild and
Oh,
plays
wow.
with the Zach Sabbath
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Zach and
Tribute,
all of
so.
that. So, I have a lot of interesting people in my neighborhood. And so, I was doing it. And then about 6 months into it, I got the call from the CEO of Monsters of Rock, the whole brand. They have the cruises and
Yeah.
they have the festivals and the radio station. And he asked me if I wanted to bring the podcast to be now. Now it's not a podcast; it's an actual live broadcast
Yeah.
that we have on Sundays, and he named it 6 Degrees of Sarzo. So now it's a 4-hour show,
Wow.
and with about 2 segments per hour
Okay.
of me talking with my guest, and it's more music centric.
Okay.
I've had a couple of friends of mine who happen to be comics, like Joey Coco Diaz, who also has an incredible podcast, and Craig Gass.
Oh, yeah, know
who's
that
also a
name for sure.
comedian.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, but most everybody else is a musician, So I've been doing that, and that comes on every Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which your time would be 7 p.m.
Right. Yeah.
And it's
3 hours.
4-hour show. Yeah. And we play music and a lot of conversation.
That's fantastic. I was very happy when I saw that because I really enjoy the podcasting thing. I really have a passion for it, and the reason why I got into it was because it allowed me to stay connected with musicians that I've respected over my life and be in the music world without having to leave home. Like I like to be home with the family, and to me that's the most important. And I get to talk to people like you that I watched forever, and it's great. So I'm very happy to see that go for you, and very happy to see it succeed. But out of that very, very nice conversation that you just shared with us, the thing I take away from that, and I've never thought about this, is that dash in between. We've all lost a lot of us have lost our parents and family members and friends and all that kind of stuff. And you go see those headstones and you never think about that. It's like here and here. You don't think about what was in the middle, and there's a lot, right? So that's very, very, that's powerful.
Yeah. And, we are the first generation that can actually catalog who we are, our creative process. Wouldn't it be awesome to listen to Beethoven or Bach podcast talking about how they came up with, their thought process for coming up with for all of that timeless music. And, Duke Ellington, Louis Armstrong. I would love to hear a podcast from those incredible geniuses too.
That's right.
So I'm doing my little contribution to towards that, being able to catalog, my friends and people that inspired me, their thought process and what music means to them.
That's great. Can you imagine if we had one of these days, if we have like the DeLorean as a time machine or something of that nature, go back in time, we go back and we see Mozart or Bach, and we say, we got this thing for you. We got a thing called Wi-Fi, and here's a JVC camcorder for you, and a microphone. Go nuts, right? And then we come back to our time, and then eventually we see all these stuff. They're having these, 5-6 parties online, and Mozart's jamming with Bach and interviewing each other. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, but they probably have 10% of the output.
I know, because
they will be on social media 90% of the time.
That's right.
So instead of writing, 1,000 musical pieces, they'll write maybe 100, and that's it.
That's right. And people will be downloading their music illegally, of course.
Yeah. I had an interesting conversation with Keith Emerson one time, and I love Keith. I mean, I was not only influenced by bass players. I was influenced by, Jimi Hendrix, influenced by Keith Emerson, people that were they took the instrument, their own personal instrument, and just took it to a whole different level. Those are the people that really get my attention, even choreographers, I watched the Bob Fosse, Gwen Verdon special, bio documentary that was on FX, and it's just the genius. I mean, of somebody just being a dancer, and then one day, all of a sudden, it starts creating this incredible choreography, and the arts. Picasso going from hyper realistic portraits to all of a sudden creating that whole different world. Music, and it's something that has never been done before,
right?
With paintings and sculptures, and that always intrigues me. What's that? How do you do that? How do you get there? What's the catalyst to create something that is so unique that it's never been done before? For example, I read the Jacko's biography, where. And I also watched a documentary that Robert Trujillo produced, and in it's the same thing. It's like Jacko all of a sudden has a daughter, has a kid. And not only does he feel like he's got to, all of a sudden be a serious professional musician to feed his family. No, he's got to be the greatest bass player that ever lived.
Nice.
And it's like, okay, he's not settling for I'm going to make a living now.
Yeah.
Now I got to be the greatest that has ever been. And he still is the greatest that has ever been. But it took that was the catalyst, So I was having a conversation with Keith Emerson, going back to Keith Emerson, and him being such a pioneer with electronic music. I thought, well, he must compose MIDI. He must have this incredible knowledge of just recording studio with a computer and creating all of this magical world, with computers. No, he wrote everything down, notation by hand.
Jeez.
He didn't have anything MIDI in everything he recorded was one at a time. Just old school. Not, using Pro Tools or whatever, Logic to record music, having on MIDI, cut and paste, do this. Now I'm going to, no, nothing like that. Everything was one pass at a time.
Wow.
That's amazing. Especially for somebody who was a pioneer in electronic music.
Yeah, you think
with
it'd be the other way around.
Synthesizers and all. No, he did it the old-fashioned way.
Absolutely fantastic. I want to talk about someone else for a second that I know you'll appreciate that does things one note at a time as well too. I want to say thank you to Thomas Maynard, sent in a couple of super chats. Thank you, appreciate that. Very, very, very kind of you. Jason Becker, composing, with eye movements and one notes at a time. I've had him on the show a couple times on New Year's Eve. Actually, we rang in a couple New Year's with him. And man, you want to talk about inspiration? Forget about the musical genius in that fellow. But just, sometimes we talk about having a bad day, I had a bad day at work, or, my tooth hurts or this or that, wow. Right.
Yeah. The agony and the ecstasy, of course, he's in a different, physical state, than Michelangelo had when he painted the Sistine Chapel. But it was just, it was the pain, physical pain of creating such a masterpiece, and that's what Jason is doing with his music.
Exactly. Yeah, and he's an inspiration for all of us to continue to push forward no matter what. You have a bad job, you have a bad day, you have maybe some illness, you can overcome anything. If he can outlive what he's supposed to have lived, anything is possible.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Say hi to a couple other people here in the chat. Thrash and Metal and Fun Riffs is saying he scored in our Randy Rhoads USA pawn shop one day for $230 out the door. So some pawn shop deals can happen. But that's the thing too. Like a lot of these guys now, just like at one time, sports cards, you could trade in sports cards. You could go in and you find some little shop that didn't know what they were doing. You could get a deal. But now everyone, the buyer is not, on the good foot going into these shops anymore. Six String Brian is here. I know the chat is flying like crazy, so I'm trying my best to get to everybody. What I'm going to talk about in a second here, as I scroll through, I'll set this up for you. As I know, with every guest you've had on your shows, you treat every guest exactly the same, but there's got to be a couple moments that have really stood out, maybe something personally for you. So think about that for a quick second, and maybe something that was really special to you personally, deep inside or whatever. And we'll come back to that in a second. Guitar Hack is here. He just had his show on YouTube just a moment ago. Fruitcake Tony is here. Mr. BHB Jr. Bruce is here. R2R3 Locking Out, one of our moderators, is helping out as always. Let me see here. Einar Freberg is here. Cheech Canada. And he's joking, says, "You're really giving up on the bass, Rudy." I think that was obviously a joke, switching to mandolin full time. There you go. I love it. Janice Lala is here as well, too. I don't know if I've missed anybody, and if I have, Terry Himes is here. Will Dunham is here. Rick Hefner is here. Blackie is here. And again, if I've missed anyone, please forgive me. It certainly isn't a slight. So, I mean, I've had the pleasure of having you on the show twice. Everyone that's come on my show gets treated exactly the same, and I have everyone from friends to to musicians like yourselves, who some of us have become friends. They all treated the same. Just like when we go play a gig, you play on world festival tours, you play in small clubs sometimes, everywhere in between. You treat every one of those gigs the same. Same thing with a guest. But who's maybe really stood out, something that really was a special moment for you?
You mean during
interviews? No, interviews actually. Some of your guests on your shows. Yeah.
It's they're all very different, because every time I bring a guest, I always let them know that the show becomes about them.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's like, again, it's a celebration of these of my guests' career and their lives and their philosophies and their contributions to society. And sometimes, and I'm always prepared. I have certain questions because it's not like a podcast. A podcast it's a non sequitur. It can go to so many places,
right?
Because I guess it's a little bit more linear.
I gotcha.
And like a stream of consciousness. Like we start talking, and one thing leads to the other, and blah blah blah. With my show, it's specific segments, because I've been asked by the producer. Again, I have a producer, so there's a certain format to the show, and we have about 8 segments. It's 4 hours, 2 segments per hour. And they like to play music too, because it's a radio station, music station. It's not a talk station. And I am one of the very few shows that do talk in the Monsters of Rock radio station, which is can be reached either directly through themonstersofrock.com or through the Dash app, which is an incredible. It's kind of like Sirius XM, but without having to pay subscription.
Yeah, and
it's no ads neither. And there's 80 radio stations in there to choose from.
Lots.
And it's an incredible app. And so. When I bring my guests and they come over, I have particular segments that I talk about certain things. I do a little bit of research because I want to keep it going and keep it interesting. And I want to make sure that I cover the guests' career and their contributions, like I talk about, things like that. A lot of them are do charity work. So we talk about our mutual charity work that we do, what they do, what I do, and so on, But then again, sometimes I'll have a guest, like, let's say, for example, Craig Gass, he's got so many characters. So it's not specifically, it's a show about the rock personalities that he has on, for example, when he impersonates Paul Stanley or impersonates Gene Simmons. So we talk about that. So it's about music or musicians, and it's more about him than any story, because see, I'm not a comedian. So when I have a musician on, I can, let's say we talk about when we got to LA. So we talk about how that musician got to LA, what was going on at the time. Then I interject, oh, well, when I got to LA, this was going on. So it's more interactive between them, my guest and me. But once I have somebody like Joey Coco talking about his comedy career and how when he got to LA, but it's a whole different world because it's comedy. It's comedy. Comedy to me, it's so I'm intrigued by it because it's almost like a lead singer, whereas you have a microphone, but there's no band.
Yeah,
a cappella.
Yeah,
you got no light show or no smoke and bombs and things blowing up and whatever. It's just you and the microphone.
That's tough.
It's tough, man. You got you don't have a guitar player to lean on. During a guitar solo or there's a drum solo and you take a break. No, you're on. And these guys that do all the specials, they're on for like 90 minutes.
Oh, I know.
Of them just talking.
They're up there naked practically.
Yeah, they're complete. Yeah, and that to me is like, oh man, I am so freaking intrigued by this. This is like, how do you do this? So my show becomes more about what they have to say rather than me interjecting about references. Oh yeah, because I don't do comedy.
That's right.
So it's like, it's all about, let me find out how they do all this stuff here, and how they came up with all of the material. What's their material about? How you come up with this? Because you have to be original, very original. You have to, if you're really gonna make a difference and have that identity, you can't be like anybody else.
Agreed. I think musicians should spend some time with some of these touring comedians. I mean, sometimes some of the musicians have the luxury of going on the road with them and being like a on stage band with them or some side music, whatever. But it's very well said because these guys are up there 90 minutes, guys and girls. There's phenomenal entertainment on both sides.
Yeah.
But we don't have the luxury. Like that's why I don't like open mic nights and things like that. If or karaoke, God forbid karaoke. If I don't have musicians up there, a drummer and a guitar player that I can, or my buddies especially, man, I feel so out of place.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Well, that's cool though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Here's a really good question. That's a couple good questions that have come in, and I was going to talk about some Randy Rhoads here later in the program because I know a very, very dear friend of yours. And we all miss him greatly every year, every day. I mean, we talk about guitar heroes on the show all the time, and Randy's name comes up all the time. So Fruitcake Tony says, ask Rudy, was it hard to go back to work so quickly after Randy's passing? And did you know Brad, obviously Brad Gillis, before he joined?
And there's, I wrote my book Off the Rails to answer all those questions because let's say we're having this really nice conversation right now, and every time that I go, because when somebody asks me a question about Randy, I'm not just answering a question. I'm traveling in time back, and sometimes except for the crash, every other memory was wonderful.
Yeah,
but if you're going to bring up Brad Gillis, who did a fantastic job coming in and letting us finish off that tour with dignity, he did a fantastic job. And you bring us certain things, it's like I can't help it but just think about, how difficult it really was. I mean, if it's difficult for me to talk about it now, imagine how difficult it was for us to get up on stage, especially Ozzy.
Oh, man.
Ozzy, because, I could play and, shed tears on stage, and I could, my fingers were just moving and playing, and I went into automatic pilot, basically, just to, get it done. And find some little joy in making music, But the fact is, the Randy wasn't there anymore, But to sing, for Ozzy to be able to sing every single night, it was an incredible emotional struggle for him. So everything that I can actually talk about regarding Randy and everything that happened before and after, and it's all in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in the book. If you want to borrow your friend's book, or it's available on Amazon, Kindle.
Yep. Very affordable
really
as well.
cheap.
It's like $6 or $7 for Kindle.
Yeah, it's like $5,
Yeah.
whatever. Download. It's all there.
Yeah.
It's all there because it's just for me to talk about it it just puts me in a place that takes me a little while to dig myself out of.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, I've never asked you this,
but I really appreciate people thinking and wanting to know more about Randy. Because it's of course we want to be able to carry his his legacy.
Yes.
But and that's why I do all those Randy Rhoads Remembered shows.
Yeah.
Because with time, the first time that I was connected with anything that was to celebrate Randy's music was when I started doing these Randy Rhoads tribute shows in 1992. We did 3, 92, 93, and 94. And I did them along with John Sticks, who was the editor of Guitar Player magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And, we all helped coordinate it back in the day when we didn't have cell phones,
Yeah.
So calling long distance and all that. So, it was a lot of work, a lot, very expensive, but it was something that we needed to do. And all the money that was made from those shows went straight to Randy Rhoads' UCLA a scholarship for classical guitar players. The check was always handed over to Mrs. Rhoads
personally
after each show. From the sponsors and the people that attended and all of that.
Oh, that's great.
And so then years later, Brian Tichy started putting together the what is called the Randy Rhoads Remember shows.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's my small contribution every year, to be able to get up there and play those songs, and yes, it's a lot of memories come back when we get up on stage and play them. But it's I feel that it's my responsibility, to show up and play them.
Right, exactly. Keeping him alive.
Yeah.
One of the things, several things I like about the book. Number one, the fact that you take care of a lot of misconceptions, and there's so many rumors and folklore about all that. So you take care of all that, but it's very nice to keep his spirit alive, and the charities, I mean, are absolutely fantastic. And there's a question actually too. What was it? I think I might have missed it. I'll try to come back to it in a second. But yeah, exactly. Keeping his spirit alive. There's a lot of young kids, which I love to see. Some of these teenagers, you'd think they're listening to some of this pop music and they're learning Crazy Train for the first time or all these different things. And it's so cool. But this is something I never asked you the first time you were on the show, and I'm surprised I didn't. But I think I know the answer to this. I would imagine writing this book, and by the way, we're going to share the link to the Amazon link tonight for either paperback or Kindle. But I imagine it was probably some therapy for you too. Was it not?
Oh yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, in the back of the book, if you get the printed version, I talk about how cathartic it was to actually sit down and revisit. I mean, one of the joys of writing the book was actually to have Randy alive in my head while up until the chapter where I write about the crash. And then I also felt necessary to continue after the crash, just to show the process of how do you deal with having lost, somebody like Randy, so irreplaceable in so many levels. How do you carry on with that? And so I wrote the book up until when I left Ozzy. As a matter of fact, somebody posted a photo of the poster on social media of the announcing the Ritz shows of the, when we did Speak of the Devil with Brett Gillis and Tommy Aldrich, which is the Black Sabbath re-recordings. And it's 26th and 27th of September. I would have not even thought about it but because somebody actually posted the poster, on Instagram.
Yeah.
That I went, oh wow, that's what I was doing back in 1982.
Wow, absolutely amazing. Yeah, we're September 26th today. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, it came from Ozzy's people. I don't know if Ozzy's actually there, posting stuff. I really doubt it, but it came from his website, Ozzy Osbourne website.
Yeah. I can't picture Ozzy doing Instagram. He may. I mean, I'm not trying to.
Who knows? But
yeah, who knows?
It's not likely.
That's right. Here's a couple questions that kind of tie into something I was going to ask you. So there's a question here. Let me see. Soda's asking a question. Is Rudy still using Spectre basses? And this will also go into Brian Cote, six-string Brian's question. He's a bass player, guitar player, and he's asking you what your live rig consists of these days. So let's take care of two questions in one. Still using Spectre?
Yes. Yes, I do. And I have I'm in my room right now, a room where I do tracking, and I have most of my basses out. And I'm looking around the room and see if it's handy, but it's not.
No problem.
But the thing is, see, I tour. I'm a member of the Guess Who, and believe it or not, our equipment. We have rental backline because we do a lot of flyaways.
Sure.
And our guitars and other, like pedals and stuff like that, they get shipped FedEx.
Okay, right.
About 2 or 3 weeks ago, when we got to the gig and we opened the case, a vintage Les Paul, was cracked at the headstock, where the headstock meets the neck right there.
Yep.
It was total. It was trash. It was like, this thing cannot even get fixed, And I only have one of my signature model Spectre, and there's no way I'm going to be sending that thing on FedEx across the country.
No.
So because it's a one piece, neck through the body, and forget about it. So what I've been playing is a Yamaha. It's a bolt-on neck. It's got 6 bolts.
Okay.
6 bolts. I only got five fingers, and I'm holding up the.
No problem.
I'm holding the iPhone with my
5 plus an imaginary one. Yeah.
So it's got 6 bolts in the back. So it's very, very sturdy. It flies. It travels great. It's passive.
Yeah.
So I don't have to deal with changing batteries, when I get to the gig, or, things like that. So the reason why you haven't seen me play the bass with a Guess Who is because I am not going to be shipping my bass from gig to gig, FedEx,
Right.
Because if anything happens to the Yamaha, to the neck, I just, Yamaha happens to be about 15 minutes from where I live. And I just will go there and change the neck for another neck.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
perfect.
That's it. Very simple. Yeah.
Yamaha in Calabasas, obviously, right?
That's right. I live in Woodland Hills. Yeah.
Very cool. That's very close and perfect.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes. Yeah.
When you were at NAMM, I had a NAMM question for you as well, too, later on in the program, but you were at NAMM last year. I met you there again and met you a couple of years before. Did you get a chance to watch the fellow I had on the show yesterday, Derek? Did you see him playing that 11-foot tall Ampeg?
When I go to NAMM, I have so many scheduled events. I'm either signing things at booths or visiting the brands that sponsor me and I use. So it's like every second. It's like, so I was around, but I was busy at that moment doing something else, so I didn't get to see them.
I know.
Yeah.
Same thing with us, because my son Junior was there and he wanted to really meet Mick Thompson from Slipknot, an EVH, Jackson artist with the Fender company. And he wanted to meet him, and Derek was at the same time, 3 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and Yamaha's over in the Marriott, which is it's a fair jaunt.
Yeah.
If you run, it'll take you 3 or 4 minutes to get there. So I can understand that. And that's another thing. I'm glad we thought of this, because the first time you're on the show, you mentioned this as well too. Same thing. You're scheduled at 3:00 over here. You're 4:30 over here. You're 6:00 over here. And I mean, you got to basically run from place to place to place. When you're done these events. But you always, and I know this for a fact because this happened the first time I met you. Even though you got to be there, if a fan approaches you and stops you, hey, Mr. Sarzo, can I get a photo? You do that. And I mean, there are some people that won't do that. And, if maybe the person meeting you for the first time, it makes a difference. And you've always done that.
Yeah. And this is what happened this year. It was the 30th anniversary of me going to NAMM. The first time I went to NAMM was in 1979 with Randy and Kevin Dubrow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because Randy's mom had a music store in Musonia, and especially for brass instruments. And so that's how I got my first NAMM passes, through Musonia, right? Mm-hmm. So 30 years later, I have it. I had the cover of Bass Player magazine, and the UK version, Bass Musician, mm-hmm. And so people were coming up to me with the magazine, asking me to autograph the magazine. So it was not just the usual; it was like added to it.
Yeah.
Because now people are because you get the magazine for free at the at NAMM. So it was like, okay, now not only do I have to take a photo with you, I'm also going to sign it for you. Which was such a pleasure and an honor to be able to do that. But that takes even more time from going from Exhibit A, Hall A, to Hall D or E, where the guitars are,
no.
Stuff like that. So it was like, okay. So I actually added an extra day to my schedule at NAMM. I was there 3 out of the 4 days at NAMM, because I knew that it was going to take me longer to get from one point to the other to schedule, appearances and stuff like that, so I could take care of everybody.
It's tough. I think what I'm going to do this year as well. See, that's a question I was going to ask as well too. Are you going to go there this winter again?
If I am not touring, yes, of course, yeah.
Good.
Also, this year I did an extra event called Sweetwater. The Sweetwater event, Sweetwater is that store in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah, the Gear Fest.
Yeah, Gear Fest.
Yeah.
I did Gear Fest this year, and I did and I was there for Spectre and Ampeg.
Oh, fantastic!
Which I endorse. I also endorsed Theriault.
Mm-hmm.
Many other brands. I mean, I get support from so many wonderful brands.
Oh yeah.
I am so blessed. And so I did that, and I did a seminar, basically centric on the circle of fifths.
Okay.
Which I love talking about that. but I was there for that, and then I got to play later on stage, and it was wonderful. It's a great event because it's more concise.
Yeah,
it's not as spread out as NAMM.
Yep.
And all the brands are there anyways.
Exactly.
So it was wonderful.
You can have great conversations with the manufacturers and things. One of our good friends here on YouTube, Brian Stewart, he runs in conjunction with Dave Reese. They run a show called Live Wires, and Brian went to Gear Fest and it was reporting from the event and everything. It was really cool. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this. I've just seen social media posts. Did you play with Michael Sweet there?
Yes, Michael Sweet and Nick Bocott joined us. We did Crazy Train.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. I love Michael. He's been on the show a couple times as well too. And man, really underrated guitar player. I mean, goodness, he's good. Yeah, he's really good. I want to make a nice point here as well too, and I know you didn't take it this way, but Tony that asked about the Randy question, I just want to share his thoughts. He says, "Please tell Rudy I didn't mean to dredge any painful memories."
No, of course not.
Yeah,
no,
I know you didn't.
I mean, like I say, it warms my heart to hear people wanting to know about Randy, and it's the reason why I wrote the book is because if you ask me one thing about Randy, there's so much that I really want to share, because everything, there's nooks and crannies about things about Randy, and I just, And I figure if I'm going to write a book, I'm going to, in 300 plus pages, I'm going to be able to detail
Yep.
everything because it's connected. It's like the circle of fifth.
There you go.
All 12 notes are related.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
So everything that I can say about Randy, you know, from his humble beginnings playing with Quiet Riot and the Sunset Strip to becoming the legend that he is today, it's all the nooks and crannies. They're all, you know, all the dots are connected in that book.
If I could recommend one thing to anybody to pick up this book, I mean, the price is not an option. It's so affordable, and the stories you get. I mean, why not? Why read all these Google stories, these things on the internet that some may be true, some could be the furthest thing from the truth. Get it from the source, you know, and you'll appreciate it.
Which is one reason. I mean, there was so when I started writing the book actually I got the drive, you know. It was like, you know, I mean, it's to sit down and write a book that takes, you know, you have to commit.
Oh, big time.
So it was kind of like, oh my God, I was reading back in the 90s, late 90s. I was reading all of this controversies and things about the crash, and I'm going like, oh my God, this is horrible. If somebody, and I was hoping Sharon or Ozzy or Tommy or somebody will actually write a book and explain what happened, but it didn't. And say, oh my God, well, if I don't take it upon myself to do this whole thing is going to blow out of proportion. And once it does that, once a lie or an innuendo or you know, or conspiracy, it's not debunked,
you can't do it.
It becomes the truth.
I know.
You know, and so that was my first, you know, what was it was like the first catalyst of to sit down to actually. And what I did is I wrote 3 chapters and I sent that over to John Sticks.
Okay.
And he read it and he says, yes, you know, write more and we'll publish it. You know, so that was like, you know, that's how I had John Sticks to actually be able to bounce off.
Yeah.
Every time I would finish a chapter, I would send it to him, you know. Yeah.
I bet you he was just sitting there, oh my God, more, you know, because that's the thing. No one was documenting it.
Well, actually, especially the last chapter where Randy is alive, which is chapter 18, I procrastinated because I knew that after that chapter was done, that was the chapter about the crash.
Oh.
And I thought it was going to be the most difficult chapter to write. Actually, it was not, because what happened was all these pent up emotions and information had been on my shoulders for decades. And to be able to sit down, I mean, I couldn't write fast enough that chapter. It just poured out of me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was like a barrage of information and emotions and facts. And I got transported to that space and time, you know, and once it was done, it was like, oh my God, this huge weight was off my shoulder because now it's on paper.
Yeah.
You know, it's from here to there. So anybody who wants to read about it, you know, it just go, you know, pick up the book and read.
That's right.
As simple as that.
The thing is, which is sad, is sometimes as much as we think our brains can save, I mean, as we get older, we lose things. And those memories, even as strong as they were, good, bad, and everywhere in between, they will be forgotten over the years as you get older. And it's kind of like you said, you felt like you had a duty in a way to document this. And it's a great thing to do that because, you know, do it while you can. And I'll just say a couple things quickly here on the Randy Rhoads aspect, just for a second, and then we won't discuss Randy anymore. But here's a question from Jonathan. Oh, actually, before I ask Jonathan Aaron Steele's question, there is something. This was before your time with Ozzy and Randy, but it was not very far. It was very, very close. I just saw a post the other day from Revolver magazine, and I think I have the link. We'll probably share. I think I have the link in the description. And it was some unearthed photos, either from a video shoot, whatever. There was like a barn setting. I forget what it was offhand, but some beautiful photos of the band. And again, just before you. And I mean, you see this one shot of it could just been the right shot at the right time, but Ozzy's looking over at Randy. His eyes are just like wide open, like wow. And
Oh yeah,
did you see
part has
that?
been around for it's been around for a couple of years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice to see that, just to see some some unearthed photos I hadn't personally seen. But now we'll go over to a question from Jonathan Aaron Steele. He says, please ask Rudy if he owns the platinum record for the Randy Rhoads tribute live album.
I'm not sure I do. I do have one for Speak of the Devil.
Okay.
I might not, because by the time Tribute came out, it was like, what, 87?
I think 86, 87, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't have all the platinum and records that I should have. I don't.
Let's get on the phone and make some calls.
You're out of the loop. You're not in the band anymore.
Yeah.
Things come out, and it's like, it's wallpaper.
I know, right?
You know, it really is. So I'm not chasing down, hey, where's my platinum record?
Exactly.
No, it's like, okay, I'm just, I know that it is multi-platinum, both of them, because, I got to play on 5 multi-platinum records in the 80s.
Yeah.
In a row.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
On Tribute, which was actually a radio broadcast live.
Exactly.
Got turned into a record. And then at Speak of the Devil, Quiet Riot, the Mental Health record, and Condition Critical records, and then Slip of the Tongue, Whitesnake. Those were consecutive, records that I'm the featured player on that.
Mm-hmm.
So and they're all platinum, multi-platinum. Yeah.
That is an accolade that a lot of us would dream of, to even to have one, let alone multi.
With 3 different bands.
That's great. I got to see you once, only one time live, personally sitting in the seats. I'm probably nosebleed seats, but I saw you with Whitesnake when Steve was in the band, Steve Vai. And,
1990, yes.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed that. And I promised,
yeah, it was great.
I mentioned this on Twitter to you, and I told you I'd bring this up just because it's one of the things where it could have been the greatest opportunity of my life, and it was the best gig that never happened. I know you played with Dio up until his passing, and I love Ronnie.
Oh, it's great.
We were on the bill with you. It was our band, Finding Core. Then it would be Fireball Ministry. Then it would be Anthrax, and then of course Dio at Harpo's Concert Theater in Detroit. We got to the border, and it's one of these things where we have to sell all these tickets, right? We didn't get paid for it. And we had all the documentation. The bar was saying that the club was saying we weren't being paid for it. It was just for exposure, right? And I hate to use that word, but it certainly would have been exposure. And we got to the border, and we told them what time we had to be there. Sound check is 7:30. They turned us away, and it was the greatest gig that never happened. But I would have actually had the opportunity of warming up for you guys. But you know what? I still look at it as it was pretty cool. It almost happened.
Yeah, it's it can be tricky sometimes.
Immigration, right?
Through immigration. Either way, that way, through us Canada or the U.S.
Either way.
It's,
and harder now too. Since 9/11, obviously security's tightened up on both fronts. So it is what it is. But what can we do, right?
Even before 9/11, I mean, with Whitesnake, going into Canada. I mean, we oh man, they used to pull the bus over and go through all the bunks and bring in the K9 units and all of that. Oh yeah, it was terrible.
And on some buses, I'm not going to say the Whitesnake bus, I'm not going to send anybody over, but on some buses there could be some extended delays with the dogs, I imagine.
Not because of drugs. I can assure you.
No, I'm not saying Whitesnake. I'm saying some people's buses. I mean, some.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, there could be some questionable material. No, I'm not saying you guys for sure. We're almost at the end of the program here, but I want to talk about something that's very exciting. I mean, this is fantastic. You mentioned Guess Who a couple times throughout the evening, and I know you've surpassed this already now, a little bit past 3 years, but 3 years, and that's a nice accolade with the band. You're doing great as kind of brought in as a hired gun at one time, and now kind of fitting in. You've had 3 years to over that working with them. Are you gelling really nice with them right now? Does it feel like a nice team?
It's a family.
Nice.
It really is. I mean, the guys are incredibly talented, super great people to hang out with, and it takes me back to, the time when, with all the bands that I've played with in the past, that the only person I have to really worry about is me.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have to worry about, is such and such member going to be on tonight, or no, we just go out there and everybody kicks ass big time.
That's nice. And the 2018, I think I wrote that you brought out the new record in last year. Now, did you play on that record?
By the time that I joined the band, I had there were 2 tracks that had not been finished.
Okay.
Yet. Yeah, so I played on those 2.
Oh, good. Okay, so you did have contribution to the record. I wasn't sure if you were on that or not, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is
the rest of the record was with Michael Devin,
okay,
who was actually subbing before I started subbing.
Okay.
For Jim Cale, who is the original bassist
in
the band. So the other portion of the record was split between those 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so we actually have 3 bass players on the record.
Fantastic. Before we wrap up as well, too, this is something that's very, very close to your heart, obviously, with animal rights, and you're kind of actually you're not kind of, you're a big advocate for the rights, and I was very happy I was able to remember your puppy's name, Willow.
There she is, right there.
Let's have I'll get her on the big
Willow, say hello.
Oh, adorable.
Hello, Willow.
What?
She's looking at me like, why aren't you rubbing my belly right now?
Well, I want to find out how you got into, being such an advocate for animal rights, and tell us maybe a little bit about some of the charities and the people. I see your tweets all the time, especially on Facebook as well, too. You share a lot of things there as well. But share us what was the passion behind that, and maybe what some of us can learn about these.
Take a look at this face right here. Take a look at that face. That's all I needed.
There you go.
Animal rights, that is such a no-brainer. It's and to me, what really motivated me to get involved with the shelters is that there's so many kill shelters in the United States. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but in the United States, just about every shelter is a kill shelter.
Yeah.
So the cats and dogs are brought into the shelters. If they're stray, they have like 48 hours. Most high kill shelters, only 48 hours before they're euthanized.
Wow.
If somebody doesn't come to claim them. If it's a surrender, they only got 24 hours before they're euthanized. And the high kill shelters, the ones that have like a high turnover of either surrenders or strays, and that's usually in urban areas like New York City and Los Angeles and so on. And as a matter of fact, I am a founding member of this charitable organization that it's in Canada. It's the Canadian organization.
Yeah, up in my neck of the woods.
BANC, which is Benevolent Artists National Charity. And it's centered in Calgary.
Yep, West Coast.
And do you know anything about the National Music Center that is in Calgary?
I do not. I have to apologize. I don't.
Yeah, check it out. It's called the NMC.
Okay.
It stands for National Music Center, and it's basically the Hall of Fame, the Canadian Hall of Fame, and it's centered in Calgary. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be up in late October. And we're going to be performing. We've been doing charity events and raised millions of dollars for the National Music Center.
Great.
And this time we're adding 2 other charities to our events. We're bringing in Emmylou Harris.
Nice.
The legendary country artist, and she's got her own charity for shelters, and she's going to be added onto the event. So. 1/3 of the charity money that's going to be raised, and we're looking at over $3 million. So probably her charity is going to receive, a great amount for the shelter that she has. She's got her own animal shelter out of the Nashville area, and the rest is going to go to the National Music Center, and also for the indigenous charity. the Missing and Murdered
Oh, wow.
charity. Yeah. So that's going to happen in the what is it? I'm going to be posting.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be. We're doing 2 shows. One at the National Music Center, and the other one is going to be at the big venue in Calgary, and then another one in Edmonton.
Fantastic. I'm going to watch for it every time you share that, and I will reshare it with our platforms as well too.
Yes,
that's fantastic. Thank you so much for what you do for these organizations, and that's one of the nice things because you've become a household name in the business. Not I don't want to say in rock and roll because it's in every genre that you kind of cross. But you have the name now. You have the ability to give back to some of these people, and I mean it's not just you. There's a lot of people doing it, but the more we do. The more these people do, they can save a lot of obviously, and we're talking about animals right now and pets, and
yes,
it's fantastic.
And also music education, which is
instruments,
what the charity for the National Music Center is
exactly. Yeah,
and the indigenous too.
That's right. Yeah. A lot of children just they want to get into music. They but maybe never have the luxury of owning a guitar or a horn or a drum kit. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Here's one last question here from Stafford's Music Studio, and we'll wrap up here in 2 minutes. Stafford says, can you ask Rudy how social media is today, how it is today? How should young musicians approach getting noticed and how to get signed if that's still a fact, if it's still important anymore?
That's an interesting question because we, even, the Guess Who, we're always, we're getting together and we have meetings about how we're going to approach social media. And one of the things that I personally like to do is to take the lead from my heroes.
Okay.
Like if you look at Paul McCartney,
okay.
Paul McCartney is so active on social media, posting about all his new projects, the tours. And here's a man who's been doing this longer than I've been playing because he inspired me to play the bass, and he's still at it, and he recognizes the importance of being interactive with the audience.
Of course,
because this is the first time that we can actually be on a one-on-one on social media.
That's right.
I mean that did not exist before.
No.
Have you read the Pete Townsend book?
I have not.
Who I Am.
I just saw them, but I did not. I haven't. I will read it. I promise you.
It's a must because once you read it, you will never listen to the Who music the same way.
Okay.
You'll realize that after Tommy, the rock opera Tommy, everything else that he wrote, it was conceptual.
Okay.
It was a concept. Before that, there were just songs, and then Tommy became the first concept album. That the Who created. And then after that, so when actually if Who's Next was supposed to be a concept album, something about a grid, grid, which actually became the internet,
right,
where everybody was going to be connected. So he was very aware about the possibilities for the future. And it turns out when you read the book, you'll find out that if you would write a fan letter to Pete Townsend back in the 60s and 70s, he would personally write you back.
In handwriting, probably.
In a handwritten letter.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So now it's basically the same thing, but now it's more interactive.
Yeah.
It's more immediate to be able to connect with the people that listen to your music.
Yeah.
Friends. That's why we call it Facebook friends.
Exactly.
And so on.
Even if it's just a little heart, like Rudy Sarzo saw my thing, it got a little heart. I mean, it could be that, it could be more. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And I personally do all of my social media.
I know you do.
There's nobody, and some people sometimes write me and says, "Oh, how come you're not authenticated or anything?" It's like, wow, I never think about that because I know it's me.
That's right. No, and I can tell. You can sometimes tell reading people on social media if it's their PR team or whatever. But I know that for a fact. I know we're 1 minute over time. I know we're going to keep it to an hour for you here, but this is a good question from Brian Stewart. He says, Rudy came to America in 1961 from Cuba. Ask him what he remembers about the trip. Was he excited or was he anxiety? Was there anxiety about leaving home?
Well, it's we didn't know that it was going to be permanent. We thought it was going to be, just temporary, leaving Cuba, and then eventually we're going to return, and it's turned into a 60-year, almost. I mean, it's going to be in a couple of years. It's going to be 60 years since we left. But just I was young, and there was a lot of uncertainties. And but it was very exciting. At the same time, I was just a kid. I was almost 11 years old. And but I did it with my family. Some of the kids back then did not leave Cuba with their families. They were put on a plane and just sent off to Miami, and then they would find foster homes for them. But I did travel with my mom and dad and my little brother. So I always knew that my parents were always looking out for us, with the best intentions. So,
it's a big trip.
I'm glad they did. I'm glad they decided to bring us to the United States.
Opened up a world of possibilities for you, and I'm very happy that
freedom. Most of all, which is the reason why I am a rock musician. Rock music is, I mean, it's to put it this way, no communist country ever nurture rock and roll.
No,
they always saw that as the music of the enemy. So
that's right.
To me, that says it all.
Well, I know everyone watching right now is very happy that your family took a chance to come to North America in the United States. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Two last things here. One, the fact that I know how much of a fan of Paul McCartney you are, because I saw the picture on Instagram. You getting one of the re-released signature basses. Fantastic.
A relic.
Oh yeah, that's
a relic. I mean, this thing is exactly.
That's great.
And it's yes, as a matter of fact, I have it it's within a couple of feet from me.
We'll take your word for it. Just follow Rudy on Instagram, which we have your links. You'll see it for sure.
Yeah.
And the last comment here, trying to think, Stan Adams was saying, you're awesome, Rudy. Give Willow a hug from me. Everyone's really enjoying the show as well, too. Mr. BHB Jr. Bruce says, excellent show, Eric and Rudy. I bought the book for my Kindle. Fantastic. So I had to purchase this evening. I want to thank you, my friend, for joining us again. It's been way too long. You've become an inspiration to me now on different levels with podcasting and radio shows. I'm learning a lot from you as well, too. But more so, I just want to thank you for your time, your friendship, and for all the gifts you've given us in forms of music from bands that we've all listened to over the years. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening and for your support all these years. And for all your listeners that support us, and we're on tour. The Guess Who. Anytime you hear that we're coming into town, we do free meet and greets after the show.
Great.
So bring the book over, and I'll sign it for you.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay.
And I'm not sure who runs their social media team, but at least pass it on to them, because they shared the show as well today too, which was fantastic. So please forward a thank you to them as well too. That was very kind of them.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, we're heading into the weekend tomorrow. Have a great weekend, Rudy. I hope you have a fantastic weekend.
You too, Eric.
Thank you again, and we will see you very, very soon.
You.
Until next time, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Video production services for Rock Shop Live are provided by Design 39 Media. Visit design39media.com for all your website, photography, and video production needs. Microphones for Rock Shop Live are provided by Rode Microphones.